Today begins a magical journey, running up to the start of the NBA season where I talk to all my friends. That's right, I have friends. And they get to tell me who the hell I should be looking at on draft boards. This first edition of, I'm stealing this from Dr. A, the My Guys series of shows, I am joined, I'm Dan, by the way. Probably should have said that. I'm joined by Alex Barutha. He is at Barutha Alex on social media, the senior NBA editor over at RotoWire. Good day, sir. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. This is always fun. Love to talk fantasy. And I keep thinking in my mind, oh, it's so early. It's not because training camp has started and the first preseason game is October 2nd. So like we're going. This is fantasy basketball time.
I know that people want us to immediately dive into your first guy, but people didn't pay attention to basketball until much later this offseason. I don't know why that happened, but people just started paying attention like 3 days ago. Did you notice that too?
I have noticed it. Yeah, just in terms of like volume on videos or tweets or just anything else, for sure. And it's funny because I mean, fantasy football is one of the longest lead ups you could even fathom for any fantasy sport.
February.
It's 3 months in advance. I'm seeing like real fantasy football content that people care about, and we're a couple weeks away from the first preseason game, and people are like, "Oh, yeah. That's right, skinny Zion. We're back."
This wasn't by the way. I don't know why it's different this year. Last year, and I'm going to blame Yahoo. So Titus, I'm looking at you, bud. The Yahoo leagues opened like August 6th last year. And so I just think people were forced to pay attention earlier. Yahoo Leagues didn't open until like August 25th this season. And for some reason, everybody's like, oh, I'm paying attention to football already. It's too late for me. But anyway, we've got Barutha's guys to get into. Please, I'll ask you now. I'll ask you again later. If this show floats your boat, if it tickles your pickle, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. Whatever I just said, definitely kept everybody from hitting those buttons. You can find me on social at Dan Vespers, and this show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Alex has not told me, by the way, who his 5 guys are. I will be surprised in real time, meaning the driver's seat is yours, my good man. Where do you want to go first?
You may not be that surprised, but I tried. My first 2 names are very on brand, but then if we get farther, I try to throw in some guys that I haven't talked that much about. First is Josh Giddey. I don't think I'm the only person who's like relatively high on Josh Giddey. And the thing is, I didn't come into the fantasy basketball process high on him initially. At RotoWire we do our projections for the upcoming season. And so, I go through that whole process. I look at what a guy did last year, and I try to project what's he going to do moving forward, and I give everyone a little bit of a bump, and depending on their age and all that stuff. I try to be pretty conservative because I don't want anybody flying up the rankings like crazy. And I thought I was relatively conservative with Giddey. And then when the rankings actually come out, because I don't get to see them in real time, we do all the projections, and then we hit the button, and it's like everyone's ranked where they're ranked. This is what you said they were going to do. And then we adjust. Giddey was like, oh, yeah, you could draft this guy 11th, 10th. It'd be fine. I was like, oh, really? But I made the projection. So then I keep deep diving. I'm like, am I wrong? Like, am I going crazy? And the more I looked at the projections, the more I thought about, the qualitative stuff around Giddey, the more I like him. And in a couple of mocks, I've taken him basically on the turn. I just think he's in a really good position. Number 1 option on a Bulls team. He's a triple-double threat every night. And without going too much longer, it's just like he's improved his shot. I think his defensive stats have actually become underrated. He's basically averaged half a block each of the past 2 seasons, 1.2 steals last year. He just puts together a really strong fantasy profile at this point.
Do you see, and this is sort of devil's advocate, sort of like half agreeing. I'm going to try my best to cover up where I stand on a lot of this stuff. So just a little bit of background on Giddey. What Alex is referring to towards the end of last year was the final 20 games, and he missed a few of them in there with injury. Giddey was at 21 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.3 combined defensive stats, 2 threes on 50-81 splits. He was number 5 in 9 category leagues over that stretch. He was actually number 4 in 8 category leagues over that stretch. Do you see any of that stuff tapering off a little bit? Like, where is a possible way that a Giddey thing might go wrong?
Well, okay, so I will say I did not really base his projections off of what he did towards the back end of last year. Like, I gave him 46% from the field, 35% from 3, 17 points a game. Like, I really tapered it all down. I think where it goes wrong, if it does, is, what if the 3-point shooting goes back to like 32%, instead of like 36 or 37%? What if the 1.2 steals over the whole course of last season he had last year reverts a little more back to like 0.8, 0.9? I'm not, I'm marginally worried about those things, but ultimately I'm not worried about his role. And that's why I like to draft. That's why I'm fine drafting him. You don't have to draft him at 13. You shouldn't have to. His ADP is much lower than that. But it's why I'm not going to be too concerned about drafting him, let's say 20th, is because I think his floor is just really high. And the thing that's easy to forget is a couple years ago, we were drafting Giddey around pick like 45 to 55 a few years ago when he thought he was going to have this big role with OKC.
Right.
And now he's better and he has a bigger role. And so I don't think it's crazy that you might draft him 25th or 20th or whatever.
Yeah, he went 20th in the slow mock that the old man squad slow mock. I think Matty G took him in the middle of the second round. That's a 14 teamer. And Yahoo's in their most recent board just bumped him up to, I believe, 24. Yeah, that's where they've got him now. And you, again, talking to Alex Barutha here, you don't have any problem taking him there or even potentially a little bit higher. I guess, and this isn't even so much about Josh Giddey, but more about the second round. It always turns into a little bit of a mess annually. And like, if you have a pick near, and again, I'm not out here saying like you must do this, whatever, but if you have a pick near 14, 15, etc., he's not going to get back to you. So if that's a guy you want, that would be when you'd have to take him. And that's a mental hurdle that I struggle with any player when you're like near a turn or will someone get back to me? There might not be a guy on the board who beats their ADP at 13. You might have to just be okay taking a guy who's like the 15th or 16th best player in that spot. And if you think that's Josh Giddey, that would be, I think, a reasonable time to do it. Let's get into the strategy just for a minute before we get to your second player. How do you like conquer that mental hurdle other than yelling at yourself constantly? Because that's my way right now. Is there a way?
I think when you're in that range, like you're talking about, you just have to start thinking about like up to some extent upside value, because assuming you're in that position, like that you're at the back end of the first round, right? You didn't get Jokic, you didn't get Wembanyama, you didn't get any of the elites. So now you're starting at a disadvantage. So I think you either have to shoot for upside with your first pick or your second pick. You got to just do it, because otherwise I think I don't want to say you have no chance, because there's other places to find upside. But I got to think of like, if I'm drafting 10th, could someone here rank 5th? And that's why it's like, oh, if Anthony Davis falls to me at 10, I'll take him.
Right.
If Curry's there, I'll think about it. And then if you're in the second round and you're picking at 14 or 15, something like that, you have to be thinking, could someone here rank 8th? Something like that. So I think you got to, at some point when you're on that portion of the draft, one of those two picks, you got to try to hit a home run.
Yeah. And it's a guy that doesn't have the injury risk hanging over him the way that some of the other upside guys in that range might, like a Kevin Durant or I guess Steph, who played in a decent number of games yesterday, but some of these older cookies. If you are checking out the Chicago Bulls win total over on FanDuel Sportsbook, it's at 32.5. The folks in Vegas don't think particularly highly of the Chicago Bulls, but they did end last season pretty damn well. So there is the question of, is that a thing that carries over, or was that more of a result of playing a bunch of teams that weren't playing defense? Because everybody down the stretch for the Bulls put up massive numbers, especially on the field goal percent side. Alex, where would we like to go next? Who's player number 2 on your board?
Again, another guy that's been on brand for me, partially since I have done Star Guy on the projections, which was Alex Sarr. Someone who I was pretty controversial is not the right term last year. Divisive in terms of like, oh, should I add Alex Sarr off the waiver wire? His field goal percentage is atrocious. And it was. He had, I think, the 4th worst true shooting percentage in the NBA last year. I mean, I can't defend that. But I think it also flies a little bit under the radar that he only played 27 minutes a game. And I don't expect him to play 27 minutes a game this year. So we can start with like the basics. I think he'll play 31-ish, 32 maybe minutes a game. Could play more. I don't know. But safe median projection, I feel like, is 31 minutes. And last season, he blocked a shot and a half in 27 minutes. And we know these guys get better. So I don't want to project him for anything crazy. But 2 blocks a game, I think, is certainly in his wheelhouse. And I think more efficient shooting is coming, not just because he's going to get better, but also because I think the addition of CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton actually helps Sarr in terms of their playmaking ability, taking pressure off of him. Those 2 guys can run pick and rolls. Like, they are good passers. They know how to get Sarr easier looks. And so I don't even really project a massive scoring increase for Sarr, maybe like a point or 2 per 36. But I think just getting that efficiency bump, even to 43%, something that's still low, being buoyed a little bit by 3-point percentage, could vault Sarr into that sort of, that center run that goes in like anywhere between the 5th and the 8th round in most fantasy leagues.
I'll try to play devil's advocate on each guy here as best I can. The field goal percent, the free throw percent were both kind of complicated for him yesterday. Is he a guy that makes more sense if you're looking at maybe one of those 2 as a punt build, or is this a guy that you like even in straight 9-cat?
Certainly a punt build would help. Like, if you are building if you're building like a guard heavy team, I think
Yeah, I
Sarr
guess like
makes
a
a lot
Wemby
more.
team, huh?
Like a Wemby team. Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. And he's a little weird because he will keep you competitive in blocks. Like if you could draft Miles Turner, like any of those 3D kind of bigs. If you grab him, he's in the mix. I would also just, when you're in that, I mean, his ADP is around 80, most sites. When you're in that range, I don't want to say like I'm not drafting for build, because that's when some people start really honing in on their build. But I think he can. He's just, it's good on blocks. And we know these types of guys, these 3-and-D bigs, they rank well in fantasy. Sort of regardless of format. So I'm just in on him, broadly speaking.
He's a guy that I remain sort of down the middle on so far. So I'm actually working on you convincing me on this show. So I want to see if you can get me over the hump, because he's a guy that I've seen in that range, and I've just been like, I'm just afraid that if the percentages do still really, really suck, then I'm going to get something that I sort of didn't bargain for. But obviously, if you're kicking one of the 2 to the curb, then that sort of like that when your insides are twisted there for a minute, you're like, oh, is this going to hurt? Then you don't really have to be quite so stressed about it, because you could see a lot of the good outlines there of if there's a scoring bump without Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma jacking up every shot on the floor. I fully agree with you that having McCollum around is a big net win for this team, to have a veteran leader who's going to actually make good decisions on a basketball court. They haven't had one of those guys in, I don't know, can we say John Wall? But like, right. Were those good decisions on a basketball court? I don't know. I'm not going to say Bradley Beal. And I'm definitely not going to say Russell Westbrook, although he was pretty good that year with them. Um, so yeah, I agree with you on the McCollum fact. I think that's going to make the team overall just do better things. Koulibaly is out for a little bit, so there's a little bit more for him to do. My great fear as like the resident roto guy is the percentages, but
Yeah.
that's a Dan problem. That's a thing I have to get over, and because head to headers, that's something that like the rest of this universe is like, yeah, I mean, like whatever, I'll sort this out at some other juncture. How high do you think? This is my quick pivot. How high do you think Sarr could go if things start to click right? Because he does have the outlines of one of those powerhouse 3-and-D center types.
Do you mean like how high could he rank if
Mm-hmm.
everything hit right? If I was saying like 8-cat, let's say 8-cat rankings, because it's just easier for me in my head.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if he was like top 60, top 55, if everything broke right. Because we're talking again, the minutes. What if he shoots 40? Again, I'm not even talking about a big field goal percentage bump. I'm talking about going from like 39% to 42% and getting some more minutes and like generally being the same player. I think takes him from a guy who was ranking like 125th, 145th in that range to a guy who could essentially slash that in half.
Mm. Yeah, and he's their player of the future there. That's their guy. They took him at the top of the damn board. Number 3. Who's number 3 on the board for you? Let's keep shuttling along.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Keyonte George in
Oh,
Utah.
see, now this one I might fight with you on, but
Okay.
talk me into this one.
I would love to, because this is a guy I haven't done like a lot of spiels on. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. So I know that it's not great when it's like, oh, we're gonna this is a guy they brought off the bench at the end of last season
Yeah.
for Isaiah Collier. But George has the much higher draft pedigree than Collier. Collier cannot shoot. And this Jazz team, has essentially zero offensive identity outside of Lauri Markkanen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with Ace Bailey, and I think Bailey will have a decent year. But they need 3-point shooting, and they need a guard who can handle the ball. And George is the only guy who can do both of those things for sure on the roster. And I know he's not an elite 3-point shooter. He shot 34% on 7.5 attempts. Obviously, those are not easy looks, and the looks are not going to get any easier. But another guy who's per 36 numbers, his per minute numbers are fantastic. I think there's kind of no question about that. Now the field goal percentage is an issue, right?
That you jump my next question there, because like I feel like you almost have to be punting field goal to draft Keyonte George, right? Because he was so bad, and he's not going to be shy about taking shots either.
Not going to be shy about taking shots. What encourages me a little bit is that he's a good free throw shooter.
That's true.
So I think the bones are there of like, this guy can shoot the basketball. So, and obviously the field goal percentage category, you need like a degree in quantum physics to like really understand what happens in the field goal, like how field goal percentage is affecting fantasy value.
Yeah.
Because if Keyonte George goes from a 34% 3-point shooter to a 37% 3-point shooter and takes more shots, his field goal percentage is also going to increase. And it's like, how much does that end up weighing in? So but I think to me, it's like, if you're looking for they have Markkanen as their number 1 guy. In theory, Ace Bailey is their number 2 guy, but how ready is he? George, to me, is the only other guy on the roster that I could even make an argument for to be potentially the number 2 option on this team.
Yeah, I mean, they got rid of everybody.
Right.
Clarkson's gone. Sexton's gone. Collins is gone. Everybody's gone. They finally embraced the full tank. I almost feel safer about Jazz players this year, because now it's very clear, like, you have a bunch of players that are probably not going to be very good when you put them on the court together. So you don't even have to mess around with the lineups to lose the way they have the last couple of seasons. So at least there's that.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to make like a player comparison that I think maybe I want to say like mirrors him exactly, he reminds me a little bit of Kobe White, where Kobe White through his first 2 years was shooting like 39%, 41%. I mean, you look at that; they're almost the exact same in terms of like, yeah, he passed. He was shooting 6 threes a game, hitting 35%. Then in his third year, shot 43% from the field, 39% from three, and sort of had a mini breakout. Now he wasn't still playing that many minutes because of Chicago. So
if you feel the need to air your grievances on Chicago, you go right ahead.
we know what was happening there. So to me, Keyonte George is like, to me, I'm like, maybe this is a Kobe White situation, where you just give this guy the role and he's in the third year and he can take a step up.
That is a really interesting point because Kobe White is not a super high defensive stats guy. That's not where the value comes from. It was mostly free throw percent and then just like a general uptick in all the other stuff. And then you got this, this last year's version of Kobe White, which was finally significantly better, especially down the stretch. That's again when everybody on the Bulls was hitting every shot they took. But it's that kind of like shooting guard style fantasy game where they're good at scoring and threes and free throw percent. And you kind of feel like there just needs to be like that one other thing that gets over the hump. If the field goal percent is going to be atrocious. And for White, it was field goal percent wasn't atrocious anymore. That's to me. But again, like if you go into Keyonte George, not worried about field goal percent, there is less of that I need this thing to work for me element. So that's probably where you could convince me, like, Dan, if you're doing this, then you don't have to worry about it. If I were trying to win field goal percent, I probably look in a different direction. But you're not wrong. Like, Utah's got nobody left there. My other beef on Keyonte George, and maybe you can talk me through this one, is you actually need to spend a little bit of draft capital to get him, which I'm surprised by because he was bad last year. I thought for sure he'd be going way the hell down the board, and I think he's going still near 100.
Yeah, we have aggregate ADP on RotoWire, and we have him at 127 across a bunch of different
All right.
sites. But I don't know. I think for me, when I'm drafting late in the draft, essentially my bench. When I'm drafting my bench, I am shooting. It's almost more qualitative for me. Like I want guys who, if one thing goes right, they have a really high usage upside. Like I want guys with usage, what I say is scalable usage, right? There are some players who you can draft at the end of drafts who essentially are not going to get more usage no matter what. They might get more minutes, but they're not going to get more usage. Like, and I use this example, and this is farther up the board. Like a guy like Rudy Gobert. If Anthony Edwards gets hurt, they're not posting up Rudy Gobert and having him do a bunch of jump hooks. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to happen.
Would be funny though.
Right. So there's a certain upside that there's a ceiling for him.
Right.
But a guy like Keyonte George, if Markkanen gets hurt, well, they gotta give somebody the ball. And the ball is going to find George's hands more than it's going to find like Walker Kessler's hands or someone else who just can't do anything with the basketball. So I like guys who have usage that, like, in theory, one guy gets hurt for a couple of weeks, or maybe this guy just improves and it's just, I don't care about the field goal percentage because the volume stats I'm getting now are suddenly so high.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't fight with you on that one. I guess it's my issue is I don't punt field goal all that often. So when I look at a player like this, I'm like, no. But if you are, he could very well be a massive darling this coming year. Because Utah has absolutely nobody left. Number 4. Wait a minute. Before we go to number 4, I got to remind everybody of our brand new partnership with our friends at Fantrax. Fantrax.com/oldmansquad is the link. It's in the show description. If you want to sign up for a completely free account, there's absolutely no obligation to pay for anything at all over there. That's just how they know where you heard about them. I know I'm showing Yahoo player pages right now, so it's maybe not the best time to do a Fantrax read, but you guys have seen me do mock drafts on this show. You guys have seen me complaining about different engines and issues and things getting all chunked up. Fantrax has simply better commissioner tools than these other places. If you are the type of person that likes to run your fantasy league or have really interesting settings like third round reversal, something quite so simple, Fantrax is the place to do it. So check them out immediately. Fantrax.com/oldmansquad is the place to go. Mr. Barutha, where are we going for number 4?
We're with Brandin Podziemski.
Yes, I love it.
Okay. My first one that you've loved.
No, I'm finding all of this extremely entertaining. I want to let you talk about Podziemski here, but it's more fun for me when it's people that I haven't really talked about that much on the show. So this is like the perfect start to a My Guys episode because I haven't talked about Keyonte George. I've talked about Josh Giddey a fair amount. I haven't talked about Alex Sarr. Podziemski I have talked about, and I'm not going to play devil's advocate on this one because I've been a dick to you for the first three players.
No, it's okay. I love the devil's advocate, man.
I'm with you on pods. Let's
Okay.
talk the listeners through this one. You don't have to convince me.
Well, look, I mean, the Kuminga thing is annoying. Like, I wish we had a resolution on that. And what the main thing that worries me now I'm going to play devil's advocate with myself. The thing that worries me is that Kuminga gets traded for Malik Monk. That's what worries me because then Podziemski's role is more complicated, right? Now, I still think Podziemski would play a lot of minutes in that scenario. He's not going to start playing like 18 minutes a game. It's not going to happen. Podziemski is very good. But to me, look, I think I'm more he started slow last year, came on late, was good at the end of the year, right? The Warriors are pretty thin. You know, they have their top three. They have Curry, they have Butler, and they have Draymond. They don't really have a lot of like ball handling, playmaking. Like I understand Draymond is that kind of a guy, but you look at their backcourt, other than Curry, it's Podziemski, it's Moody, it's Buddy Hield. Like I
Buddy
don't know
Hield.
how much do I trust those guys? And you know, if you're like me and you don't trust old guys to stay healthy, especially if they've had an injury history, like Curry, like Butler, like Draymond, I think there's going to be a lot of nights where like two of those three guys are just not available. And then you look down the roster, it's like, well, who's going to play with the basketball? Who's going to play basketball when those guys are out? And I think it's Podziemski. He's the guy, the ball has to go to him and he's got to do stuff with it. And we know he's good on defense, so he's going to be out there even if they need defense. If they need offense or if they need defense, he might be out there. I really like him. He made good development strides last year. I think he's in a good position.
Yeah, and I was working on buttressing your argument by throwing the Golden State Warriors final month numbers on the screen for YouTubers to look at. When Steph was number 7, Butler was number 16, and Podziemski was number 52 in 9 category leagues over the season's final, basically 15 games, give or take, on averages of 17, 3.5, and 6 assists a night. Sorry, wait a minute. 3.5 threes, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal, and he was 49, 72, 76. I'm sorry, I'm reading small numbers. This is like Dan needs reading glasses edition of the show. Let me switch over to the tab. There we go. Now I can see it. Hi, everybody. We're going to zoom in a little bit more for my face. I mean, this was, and I don't know that he's going to shoot 49% for an entire season, but again, like he took the second most shots on the team. It wasn't the second highest usage because Butler was getting to the free throw line a ton. But to what you were saying, like he's the other guy in that mix. It wasn't Buddy Hield, who, to the Warriors' credit, they convinced Buddy Hield to play a tiny bit of defense down the stretch. But Podziemski was the guy that fit with that Draymond, Curry, Butler crew. He became part of that, like the in crowd. And that's why I'm not even really all that worried about the Kuminga stuff. Like, I don't think anybody's displacing Pods. He was playing 32 minutes over that stretch, more than Draymond even. He's a thing now, and they figured out where they needed Butler for whatever reason. Like, that was the piece that made Podziemski fit in this offense, to have a guy who doesn't need to be shooting all the time as the other playmaker with Steph. And that's like, all right, Podziemski, you're going to be open all the time, so be ready to do this thing. So I think he has a really nice path to top 75 value in 9-cat, and he's going whatever it is. Yahoo's got him at like 106, 107, something like that. But I think he was going later than that, and he just got bumped up the board earlier. Wasn't he going like near 115, 120?
He's going really late in some, like on fan tracks, I think his ADP is like 140.
Holy moly.
ESPN 140. Even on Underdog, like best ball, he's like 120.
Yeah, you got to take him there.
Yeah, and I have been.
Me too. Yeah, because I've tried to. I do this whole thing with all my buckets because I think it's easier than trying to do actual, integer ranks on players. And tiers of flyers, basically. Who's in your first tier of flyers, your second tier of flyers? To me, Podziemski should be in a first tier of flyers. Because if things go well, like you said, what if Steph misses 3 weeks in the middle of the season? What if he misses more than that? What if Butler misses his normal nagging injury number of games? Podziemski's got a path to be a top 50 guy for those stretches. That's like a sleeper that hits zone. So I'm fully with you on this one. I'm slowing this program down because I've done the thing that I always do, which is make everybody talk about each guy more than they intended to. So we agree wholeheartedly on Podziemski. Get him on your list of flyers. Barutha, who, before you tell me your fifth and final name, what are you working on these days? Let's promo RotoWire a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing for people to see is just to go on rotowire.com/NBA. Because that takes you to the NBA homepage. You're going to see, I think it's 6 of our most recent articles. You're going to see all the latest news. From there, you can access like our custom rankings tools, our projections, everything like that. And I try to highlight those as much as possible.
Wait a minute. I have to accept the
Gotcha.
cookies first. There we go.
I try to highlight as much of our work as possible on my Twitter, which is at Barutha Alex. So I try to condense some stuff, rip a few things here and there from behind the paywall, and just let you know.
I know that guy.
But yeah, as you can see, we got breakout players. I did a expert mock draft with Kieran Sprecher with the guys from ESPN, sleepers, 9-cat strategies. We're ready. We're ready for the season.
It's go time, baby. This is rotowire.com/NBA. It takes you to rotowire.com/basketball. Those both seem to work. And that is what's going down. All right. Thanks, my man. Let's go back to player number 5.
Santi Aldama.
Ooh, let's talk about Santi. I'm on the fence with him too. And I can't figure out where I want to land with this dude. So get me. Yeah, talk me through Santi Aldama. I'm excited he just came up here.
Well, like his ADP, I don't even really have to think about it, in my opinion, which is
way out there.
Which is on aggregates like 140. I mean, Aldama, obviously, he took a step forward last year. Was really inconsistent for the first basically 3 years of his career, where it's like, oh, I guess I'm adding Santi Aldama again this week. Oh, I guess I have to drop him again this week. It's just like that was his whole career. And last year, he really stepped up, shot better from the field, shot better from 3, added some playmaking to his game. Defensive stats were still decent, although he lost some blocks. I think that was a Zach Giddey, Jaren Jackson playing the front court situation. But look, with Desmond Bane gone, that's a lot of usage that has opened up. And I have no idea who's going to take it, frankly. Like, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope did not play that well last year. I like Jalen Wells, but can he do more? They have like Gigi Jackson and Cedric Coward and Vince Williams. I kind of don't understand like what is going on on the wing in Memphis. But one thing we know is that Aldama can essentially play 3 positions. He can play small forward, power forward, center. Zach Edey is out to start the year. Jaren Jackson is recovering, of course, from a surgery or something. Yeah. Turf toe. So they're already banged up. We know he's usually banged up, Jaren Jackson. So I think there's just a lot of room for Aldama to see more minutes consistently and more usage. And he's 24, so he can still get better. And they trusted him last year with the ball more. So I think there's some upside to be had.
Yeah, I think I'm in on Aldama too. And it feels weird because, like you said, for so many, not even seasons, just like chunks of seasons, we were playing the yeah, but we know that other shoe's about to drop kind of game with him. And then this past year, it was like almost there. And then he got hurt and he wasn't quite right. And the minutes never really got back to where they were earlier in the season. But I honestly, like, you gave a bunch of reasons. I think the Desmond Bane reason is probably the only one that people really need to be all that worried about with him. Or not worried about, but like need to be most cognizant of. You throw 15 shots back in the bucket, and Ja's already taken 18, and Jaren Jackson's already taken 16. There's only so many of those extra 15 looks that, and this is like fuzzy mathing it quite a lot, but if you're just going with the let's see what Desmond Bane did and can we split it up, Like, you give Aldama 1.5 to 2 shots per game. That's all I'm asking here. It's not a boatload more. That does push him inside the top 100. And then you hope that maybe there's a little room for growth beyond that. His field goal percent was better this past year. He got it up to 48 instead of where it had been, the 45-ish over his career before this season. Could the free throw number get into the 70s instead of the 60s? That would be swell. That's kind of like that last hurdle that we'd need to climb. But, I mean, he could also get a steal and 0.6 blocks or something like that. So it just feels like there's a lot of ways that he could rack up counting stats and hopefully not ruin the percentages. Like, they were not good, but they were acceptable. And I'm just playing the mental game of, like, what does he look like with 2 more shots per game? And that's a, higher than top 90, possibly even a little higher than that kind of guy for 9-cat. So I'm with you on this one. He's probably not in my first tier of flyers, but like you pointed out, Alex, he's getting drafted in the last round, basically. So you don't need to take him in your first tier of flyers. So I think I'm with you. I think I'm in on Aldama. I'm just trying to figure out, like, how bad do I want to take him? If I get to my second to last, we'll go penultimate or ultimate pick in a draft, and I have like 3 of my third tier flyers still kicking around, is Aldama at the top of that list, or is he in the middle of it? And it sounds like for you, he'd be more towards the top of your next tier of flyers. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I mean, if he's there for me with my last pick, it's more likely than not that I take him. I think he's actually in underdog best ball is tied for my most rostered player, believe it or not. But that's he there's some nuance there. He qualifies as a big. This is best ball, right? But I've been drafting a lot of him, and certainly jumping ADP for him because I look at the other options and I'm like, well,
yeah,
these
are crap.
I don't want to draft Tobias Harris in best ball when I could just draft Santi Aldama and hope for the best. But
and you could probably get them both if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like 2 rounds earlier. I guess my thing with him is, and the reason I keep coming back to, I think I'm good with this, is how could it be worse? And I don't mean this like last year was a bad thing. He was actually pretty good last season, but how could he not be better? Right?
And I think there's more minutes too. I mean, you talked about shots, but can he play 29 minutes instead of 24 minutes?
Yeah.
And that would be big because he averaged like 18. What did he average per 36 last year? 18,
he's
9,
again,
and 4.
Not bashful. Another one of them not bashful guys.
Right. And yeah, he's in that same range as, like, now I think I would draft Tari Eason over him, given the situation. But he's in that bucket with like Tari Eason. But I don't know. Kaysen Wallace goes around this range. D'Lo goes around this range, give or take. And I kind of like D'Lo this year, at least for the first half, depending on where you draft him. But I think Aldama's perfectly like situated where he is, and I would love to draft him with my last or my second to last pick.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. And those are your 5. That's the big 5 from at Barutha Alex over on the social medias. I took longer than I intended to. I said I would have you back to your day a solid 15 minutes ago, and I absolutely doinked it because this is what I do. But seriously, dude, thank you so much for carving out time to jump on the show. And we're going to do another one in the next couple of weeks as soon as the Old Man Squad slow mock is done. What pick did you have in that one? 6th? You were 6th pick.
So.
Ooh, you got a Cade build you get to come talk about. I didn't screw up. That's the draft. My Cade mock was the one I absolutely screwed up the hardest of any mock I've done. I don't know why, but I did. So we'll get that going in the next week or two. I guess that's it. Thanks again, my man. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I love having that dude on the pod, and I'd like to say I don't know why I don't do it more, but I know why I don't do it more because I can't get my own stupid schedule sorted out. But Alex was kind enough to be like, yeah, man, we can record like the second you get home from dropping your kids off at school, because that is the time that I have it's the most likely that I won't be called for some sort of child-related emergency. Like right after drop-off, they're almost definitely good for some chunk of time. So big, wide-bodied thank you to Alex Barutha for coming on the program today. And before we go, I want to remind you guys that this show is also brought to you by the HOF app. You can download the app, HOF, or if you're like me and you're old, like real old, and having trouble seeing the numbers when you're looking at the live window screen instead of the actual tab, you can go to hofapp.com. They have a perfectly viable, outstanding website that goes with it as well. Why would you visit the HOF app or hofapp.com? Well, it is the place to go for stats, leaders, trends, and just anything you could possibly need to build out your card for the evening. They have their website tracks 8 of the top places to get down on games, FanDuel being one of them. So, like, if you want to see FanDuel numbers, you can see them from the HOF app. Prize Picks, Sleeper, Underdog, all that stuff is there as well. BetMGM, Caesars, etc., ESPN Bet, like all of that is tracked through the HOF app. So you're never going to get beat on the right price on things. They do not have NBA numbers up yet because the NBA hasn't started, but what it does track, and like if you want to check it out, go to hofapp.com or open the app and go to the MLB tab for a minute. You can see head-to-head numbers, player versus pitcher. You can see last 5, last 10. This site and app will help you figure out what the best plays are on the board using numbers. Millions and millions of aggregated numbers make you a more successful player. That is how it works. That is why you need to check out HOF and the HOF app immediately. I mentioned on a show 1 or 2 days ago that, like, friends of mine, I have a text thread going right now with these dudes. It's my Little League dad friends. One of them is big into, like, betting the entire football card as one parlay. And I've been like, what are you doing, man? He's like, I do $5 a week. And, like, if it hits one time in my life, then I'm set. And I can, like, just buy whatever I want for a few weeks. I'm like, okay, great. You do that. The HOF app has a parlay optimizer that could look at my buddy's card and be like, these ones are going to be the ones that end your day. Because he's gotten, 10 or 12 out of the, what was it, like 13 that you need to get? I'm not a football guy. Think about how different his life would be if this parlay optimizer was like, take out that one. And that was the one that missed. It's unbelievable. And right now, you can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off the first month. Or, I don't care, skip the first month. Do just the 7-day trial and see if you like it. If you like it, let it ride. If you don't, don't. Our promo code is the word SQUAD. It's a very short 5-letter word. It's the last word in Old Man Squad. You don't need to remember the 2 3-letter words that precede it. Just SQUAD. That is your promo code. That code is good until October 14th. Check them out now. You have absolutely nothing to lose. If you have placed even a single wager in your life, go see what the HOF app can do for you and tell me about it, because I am damn sure that you are going to be pleased. Thanks again to Alex Barutha. You can check him out on social media at Barutha Alex, Barutha Alex. I am at Dan Vespers. If you enjoyed today's program, please hit the like button and subscribe. That's how we continue to grow this thing. This is the first of many episodes in the My Guys series of shows here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, presented by FanDuel and Fantrax. I'm Dan. I'll see you guys soon. So long for now.